It's 1907. The U.S. economy teetered on the edge of collapse. Banks were failing. Panic gripped the streets of New York. Thousands of people crowded outside financial institutions, desperate to withdraw their life savings. The government was helpless and the President Theodore Roosevelt silent. But then one man stepped forward, an individual with the power and audacity to save the nation. His name? John Pierpont Morgan, known as J.P. Morgan. John's name is synonymous with wealth, ambition, and control. But how did he rise to dominate American finance and industry? From massive business deals to saving the country from financial disaster, J.P. Morgan's life is a tale of bold moves and big ambitions. This is the story of J.P. Morgan, the man who built and broke empires. Born into a family deeply rooted in banking and commerce, J.P. Morgan was destined for a life of wealth, privilege, and power. His father, Junius Spencer Morgan, was a successful banker in London. He trained young Pierpont from an early age to follow in his footsteps. Their father-son relationship can probably be defined as tough love. When young Pierpont was 15, his father sent him to Europe to study. It wasn't just about academics, it was about preparing him for a global world. In Switzerland, he learned discipline. In Germany, he studied advanced mathematics. And in London, he got his first experience in banking. Wait, we are getting ahead of ourselves here. Let's take a step back and see, was it all sunshine and rainbow for the young Pierpont? The answer is no. Young Pierpont's early years weren't as smooth as his family's wealth might suggest. He suffered from severe health problems, particularly recurring spells of rheumatic fever that left him weak, bedridden for long periods, and permanently marked by a disfiguring skin condition called rosacea. The illness gave him a reddish-purple nose that became a distinct feature of his appearance later in life. These health struggles kept him away from physical activities, but this sharpened his focus on intellectual pursuits. And due to spending much of his time indoors, you would find him reading financial reports.
Today's video is brought to you by Prime Emporio, your one-stop destination for various household and fashion products and accessories. Discover the ultimate shopping experience at their online store, offering an extensive range of products. Don't forget to check out their online store and treat yourself to something special.
By the time he returned to America, he wasn't just a well-educated young man. He was ready to take on the rapidly growing U.S. economy. In 1861, he established his own firm by the name J. Pierpont Morgan & Company. One of the dividends of working in banking industry was Pierpont's introduction to New York's elite, allowing him to mingle with those of high society. At one of these gatherings, he met Amelia Sturgis, a lively and beautiful woman from a prominent New York family. But their happiness was tragically short-lived. Amelia fell ill with tuberculosis and passed away just months after their wedding. Understandably, Pierpont was devastated. It's believed that he never truly recovered from this tragic loss of his wife at such a young age. After this, John buried himself even deeper into his work. At this time, the American Civil War broke out. While Pierpont was going through a crisis, so do America. In 1863, U.S. government passed a Conscription Act requiring men aged 20 to 45 to serve in the Union Army, but it allowed wealthier men to avoid service by paying a commutation fee of $300 or hiring a substitute to take their place. Instead of joining the fight, John chose to exploit the loophole in the system. He personally avoided military service by paying $300 and hiring a substitute soldier. He didn't stop here. He was also involved in a controversial rifle deal during the Civil War, which came to be known as the Hall Carbine Affair. The Union Army was in desperate need of arms, and John saw an opportunity to profit from this urgency. He and his business partner, Simon Stevens, bought 5,000 obsolete Hall carbines, a type of breech-loading rifle from the U.S. government. These rifles had originally been manufactured in the 1840s and were considered outdated for the time. Morgan and Stevens purchased the Hall carbines for $3.50 each from the government, and then resold these same rifles back to the Union Army for $22 each, making a massive profit of more than 500%. What made this deal especially controversial was that the rifles were in poor condition, prone to malfunction, and arguably unfit for use in battle. In 1865, John married Frances Louisa Tracy, known as Fanny. She was intelligent and supportive. Their marriage gave him stability and also sharpened his ambitions. With a family to support, Pierpont threw himself even deeper into the world of banking. In 1870s, the U.S. was changing fast. Railroads were connecting cities, factories were producing goods at an incredible pace, and new industries like steel and oil were booming. But all of this needed lots of money. That's where Pierpont came in. He believed in consolidation, the idea that fragmented businesses could be united under a single powerful entity to eliminate competition and maximize profits. His most famous deal came in 1901, when he orchestrated the creation of U.S. Steel, the first corporation in the world valued at over $1 billion. By consolidating Andrew Carnegie's steel empire with other firms, Morgan effectively controlled the backbone of America's industrial economy. But Morgan didn't stop there. He dominated railroads, bringing order to an industry plagued by cutthroat competition. By the turn of the century, he controlled nearly 5,000 miles of track, including the powerful Northern Securities Company. Morgan's moment of greatest fame came during the Panic of 1907, a financial crisis that threatened to collapse the U.S. economy. The panic began when a failed attempt to corner the copper market led to a series of bank runs and a crisis of confidence in Wall Street. With no central bank to stabilize the economy, Morgan stepped in. He summoned the nation's top bankers to his New York library and worked tirelessly to broker deals that stabilized key institutions. Morgan personally secured millions in loans to shore up failing banks and persuaded other financiers to follow suit. His actions stopped the panic and earned him the reputation of a financial savior. However, the Panic of 1907 also underscored the immense power Morgan wielded. Critics questioned whether it was healthy for one man to have so much control over the financial system. It was this crisis that ultimately spurred Congress to create the Federal Reserve. While Morgan's defenders hailed him as a stabilizing force in turbulent times, his critics saw him as the embodiment of monopoly and greed. His consolidation tactics often crushed smaller competitors, and his influence over industries was so vast that he was accused of creating monopolies that stifled innovation and harmed consumers. The most notable scandal involving Morgan came in 1902, when President Theodore Roosevelt filed a lawsuit against Morgan's Northern Securities Company, accusing it of violating antitrust laws. Roosevelt's administration argued that the company's control of multiple railroads created an illegal monopoly. In 1904, the Supreme Court sided with the government, forcing Northern Securities to dissolve. Morgan's personal wealth and extravagant lifestyle also drew criticism. He was known for his art collection, lavish yachts, and private library, which showcased his immense fortune. J.P. Morgan's death in 1913 marked the end of an era. His legacy is a study in contradictions. On one hand, he was a visionary who brought order to chaotic markets, financed America's industrial expansion, and saved the economy during a crisis. On the other hand, he was a ruthless monopolist whose methods raised questions about fairness and morality in capitalism.